So if I pulled you aside, Joe, and I said to you, the two best fighters in the UFC lightweight division are going to square off against each other. And the reason why these two guys are the two best fighters is because one of them is a master wrestler grappler, as my laptop starts making noises for no reason. And he's just such a master at the art of wrestling. He'll get a hold of you and you can't shake him off you. And slowly but surely he'll get a better position until it's too late and he's got some sort of submission hold on you and you just got to tap. But his opponent, the guy that he's facing, he is an aggressive striker who strikes from different angles. And the thing that's so good about him is if the fight goes to the ground, his jiu-jitsu is out of this world and he can submit you from anywhere. If I said that to you, you'd be like, oh my God, it's finally happening. Tony Ferguson is fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov. And I'll slap you in the head and say, no, you idiot. It's Charles Oliveira against Islam Makhachev. And it goes down this weekend, UFC 280 from Abu Dhabi, Yas Island, Fight Island. Who remembers that? Fight Island. It's all happening this weekend and I am extremely excited. And I'm ready to talk about it. Before I do, my name's Rahul J-Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. So look, obviously I was embellishing facts a little bit during that intro, but to me this is kind of like the fight that we always wanted to see that never happened, Mark II, right? Because I there were some truths in my intro in terms of Islam Makhachev being a master wrestler, and there were a lot of truths in my assessment of Charles Oliveira being a very good striker who will hit you from different funny angles. But here's the gap for me. For me, Charles Oliveira has proved he is the best fighter in the lightweight division off the back of the run he's been on, off the people that he's beaten, and not just the fact that he's beaten Chandler and Dustin Poirier and Gaethje, but the way he did it. The way he did it. I can't say the same for Islam Makhachev. I can't. Like, I know, I can see that this guy is world class. I can see that he's a threat to the title, but I just haven't seen him beat anyone good enough to say, yep, he's definitely 100% the real deal. He hasn't had his Gilbert Burns moment. The moment that, how am I forgetting his name? Chimaev has had. Like, there were questions about how good Chimaev is, and he answered those questions in a back and forth fight with Gilbert Burns. But at the end of the day, he walked out with his hand raised. And everyone is in agreement that Gilbert Burns is definitely one of the best in that division. Makhachev, on the other hand, however dominant he's been, however good he's looked, he hasn't had that opportunity to face a top lightweight for us to say he's arrived. This guy's arrived. Having said that, he has put together an impressive string of victories. And there's been limited moments where we've seen, oh, that's a weakness in Makhachev. That's a weakness in Makhachev. So we come to Saturday night where Charles Oliveira faces off against Makhachev. And I've said this many a time on this channel, the fights that get me the most excited are the unknowns. Like, I can't sit here and tell you that Makhachev is definitely going to be able to impose his wrestling on Charles Oliveira because of the fact that I've just said to you earlier on in this video, Charles Oliveira is very, very, very aggressive on the ground, off his back, working submissions. And I don't know if we've seen anyone as good as Charles Oliveira off his back face Makhachev. We haven't seen anyone as good at jiu-jitsu as Charles Oliveira face Makhachev. And the thing that I think most about the difference between Charles Oliveira and Makhachev's previous opponents is Oliveira invites the opportunity to take the fight to the ground. And that's why he's so aggressive on the feet. And that's why he's so willing to throw shots at such a pace on the feet, because he's not concerned about hitting the deck. And the thing about Charles Oliveira's striking style is he's just so accurate and he's so deceptive with the power. Like, he's hurt every single one of those names that I mentioned previously in the title fights that he's had. Like, he's hurt them. Like, he's made them hit the ground with strikes. Dustin Poirier, Gaethje, Chandler. So to me, all I'm seeing is Charles Oliveira just on the front foot, striking, being aggressive, taking the fight to Makhachev. But does that play into Makhachev's hands? Does that allow Makhachev the opportunity to close the distance, change levels, and get the takedown? And that's the question that is going to be on. That's the question that I need to see an answer to. What happens when they hit the floor? Because that, to me, will dictate how the rest of the fight goes. It's funny, like, because going into this fight, I was thinking about this, and Charles Oliveira lost the belt on the scales before his defense to Gaethje. I don't know why I did that. Doesn't even make sense. But prior to his fight against Gaethje, he was going to defend the title, and he lost the belt on the scales. And I still, to this day, maintain that the scales were off, because a lot of fighters during those weigh-ins weighed in 0.5 over the weight division they were weighing in for. There was a calibration issue. And because of that, this is a vacant title. Charles Oliveira isn't defending the title in this fight. But every time I kind of think about it in my head, Charles Oliveira is the champion and he's defending this belt against Makhachev. The division has a champ. The champ has a name, and his name is Charles Oliveira. Something like that. That's what Charles Oliveira says, isn't it? But I'm very interested. I'm intrigued to see what happens. Like, if I had seen Makhachev dismantle a Gaethje, actually, not so much Gaethje, because I think Gaethje has shown in this fight against Charles Oliveira and his fight against Khabib, when it goes to the ground, he's not a high-level competitor. Like, we were sold these wolf tickets about Gaethje for all this time about how he's a world-class wrestler and you don't want to take it to the ground with him. But the times we've seen it go to the ground, he looks like a fish out of water. But Dustin Poirier, if I saw Makhachev do what he's done to his other opponents in the UFC, if I saw him do that to Poirier, I'd be more confident in saying that I think Makhachev wins. And I think there's something to be said about the experience that Charles Oliveira has had at this level, and not so much just this level, like the experience he's had facing adversity in the octagon, in the losses he's taken, in the times he's missed weight, in the times that he's been just dismantled, tired, people saying he's quit. Like, I can draw parallels in Charles Oliveira's career and a Michael Bisping, a guy that you didn't think would ever get to the level that they finally managed to achieve, right? But the difference is Bisping did it at the end of his career, where it was almost like, oh, finally did it. And then he kind of started to taper down, it felt like just trying to find fights where he could make the most money, which was fair enough, right? Whereas Charles Oliveira seems to have hit his peak, become champion, and now it's like all systems go. He's ready to just prove just how good he is and how much better he is than everyone else in the division. That's the way I see it anyway. And if he beats Makhachev on Saturday night, to me, I can't say it will be his most impressive victory, right? Because, like I say, I don't know where Makhachev's ceiling is. But what I can say is the hype and the attention that Makhachev gets and the way he's being kind of built up as definitely the next one in line. Not just by his team, not just by Khabib et al., but by a lot of people that follow the sport. If he derails that steam train, that will be a big, big, big feather in his cap. But even now, I'm saying today, I don't know whether that will go down as his best victory ever. But if I'm going to have to make a prediction for this fight, what I will say is I'm going to have to go with Charles Oliveira. It's hard to bet against a man that has been so dominant in his last 3 outings in the octagon. And I've probably said this about 17 times in this video. I haven't seen Makhachev beat anyone where I think to myself, all right, you got to sit up and take notice of this guy. He's been levels above the people that he's fought. He's shown that he definitely is a solid top 10, top 5 lightweight. But I think there's a gap between the Oliveiras, the Chandlers, the Dustin Poiriers, the Gaethjes, and the people that Makhachev has beaten to date. And I think that might work against him a little bit. Like, they've been screaming and shouting for this title shot for years, literally years. Makhachev deserves a title shot. He's been on this, long win streak. But is there something to be said about getting that experience, getting that main event experience, getting that experience of fighting 5 rounds in top competition and building up slowly? Clearly, they believe he has the ability to become champion. Otherwise, they wouldn't be screaming for him to get a title shot like this. To me, that camp, Khabib and his boys, it doesn't seem like they're the type that just kind of... I feel like they have a realistic understanding of where the guys in their camp are at and trying to get fights at the level that they're training and performing at. And they've been saying that Makhachev should have a title shot for ages. So they believe that he can do it. But like you know, you always hear this cliche, oh, this guy's a beast he's a beast in the gym, but he just can't do it on fight night. To this day, we've seen Makhachev do it on fight night. And this is the biggest one. This is the biggest hurdle for him. But I think Charles Oliveira does it, man. I think Charles Oliveira wins on Saturday night because I think he's going to put a pace on Islam Makhachev. So Islam Makhachev always talks about making his opponents tired, right? Which is something that he definitely does, but that's when the fight's on his terms. I don't know whether every single second of every minute of that fight on Saturday night is going to be on his terms. I feel like Charles Oliveira is going to have his moments, and Makhachev is going to have to weather storms in that fight. And will he be able to maintain his gas tank when he's fighting against the tide? You know, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen Makhachev have to do that for extended periods in the octagon up until this point. And it might just be that he's just that damn good. And Charles Oliveira's got a big problem on his hands on Saturday night. And Makhachev is just going to overwhelm him. But this is why we love the sport, because it answers questions for us. And I'm looking forward to seeing those answers on Saturday night. Let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Who do you think gets this? What do you think about the stuff that I've said in this video? Feel free to share your own opinions about this fight. If I've missed anything out, if you think that there's some important information about this fight that I should have covered, feel free. Let's talk, and subscribe, like, share, all of that good shit. I'll catch you guys next time.